The phone rang at 2 a.m., and I knew exactly who it was before I even looked at the screen. My ex-wife Sarah only called at ungodly hours when her perfect little world was crumbling around her. I stared at her name flashing on my phone from my apartment in London, debating whether to answer. The last time we spoke was 8 months ago when she served me divorce papers while I was recovering from surgery. Yeah, you heard that right. She actually showed up at the hospital with her lawyer and a stack of documents while I had tubes still attached to my arm. I let it ring. Then she called again. And again. On the fourth call, I picked up. "What do you want, Sarah?" My voice was flat, emotionless. "Sam, please, I need you to tell them the truth." She was crying, her voice breaking between sobs. "You have to tell them what really happened. They're all looking at me like I'm some kind of monster." I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "Tell who? What truth?" "At my wedding, someone said something about us, about you, and now everyone thinks I'm a terrible person. David's family is threatening to leave. His mother called me a gold digger, Mark. You have to fix this." I couldn't help it. I laughed. It started as a chuckle, but grew into full-blown laughter that echoed through my empty apartment. "You want me to fix your wedding? The wedding that happened less than 4 months after our divorce was finalized? The wedding to the guy you were sleeping with while I was working 70-hour weeks to pay for your mother's cancer treatment?" The line went quiet, except for her sniffling. "Never call me again, Sarah." I hung up and turned off my phone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. My name is Mark Danielson. I am 34 years old, and until a year ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was a senior software engineer at a tech company in Seattle, married to my college sweetheart, living in a nice house in the suburbs and planning for kids. I was one of those guys who did everything right, worked hard, came home on time when I could, remembered anniversaries, and actually listened when my wife talked about her day. I thought we were solid. I should have seen the signs earlier. But when you trust someone completely, you make excuses for the little things that don't add up. The late-night texts she quickly hid, the new lingerie that I never got to see her wear, the sudden interest in going to the gym 5 times a week, the mysterious girls' nights that became more frequent. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these stories matter. The day everything fell apart was supposed to be ordinary. I had been putting in extra hours at work because Sarah's mother, Patricia, had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The treatments were expensive, and even with insurance, we were looking at thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket costs. Patricia was a single mother who had raised Sarah after her father abandoned them when she was 6. Sarah was her only family, and I loved Patricia like she was my own mother. So I took on extra projects, worked weekends, did whatever it took to make sure she got the best treatment possible. I had been feeling off for a few weeks, tired all the time, strange pains in my abdomen, occasional dizziness. I kept pushing it aside because we couldn't afford for me to take time off work. But one day, the pain became unbearable. I collapsed at my desk, and my coworker James had to call an ambulance. At the hospital, they ran tests and found a large mass on my kidney. The doctors said it needed to come out immediately, and there was a chance it could be cancerous. I was terrified, but I called Sarah from the hospital bed and told her what was happening. Her response wasn't what I expected. "Now? Is this happening now?" She sounded annoyed, not worried. "Mark, I have plans tonight. Can't this wait until tomorrow?" I remember staring at the phone, wondering if I had heard her correctly. "Sarah, they're taking me into surgery in 2 hours. They think it might be cancer." There was a long pause. "Fine, I'll be there when I can." She never showed up. Not for the surgery, not during recovery, not even the next day. She finally appeared 3 days later, but she wasn't alone. She brought her lawyer, a smug-looking guy in an expensive suit named Richard Pearson. That's when she handed me the divorce papers. "I've been unhappy for a long time, Mark. I need to move on with my life. I've met someone else, someone who actually has time for me." I was so shocked I couldn't even respond. My kidney had been removed 72 hours earlier. The biopsy results weren't even out yet.
I was lying there in pain, worried I might have cancer, and my wife of 9 years was divorcing me? "Who is he?" I finally managed to ask. "His name is David Thornton. He's a real estate developer. He actually understands what it means to build a future."
David Thornton. I knew that name. He was one of the guys Sarah worked with at the marketing firm downtown. I had met him at a couple of company parties. He was one of those smooth-talking types who wore expensive watches and drove a BMW. The kind of guy who probably used the word synergy unironically. "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "How long, Sarah?" She looked away. 8 months. 8 months. While I was working myself to exhaustion to pay for her mother's cancer treatment, she was sleeping with David Thornton. The betrayal hit me harder than any physical pain I was experiencing. "Your mother," I said quietly. "I've been paying for your mother's treatment." "And I appreciate that, I really do. But Mark, you're never around. You're always working. David makes time for me. He takes me to nice restaurants, buys me things, makes me feel special. I was working to save your mother's life." "Well, maybe she would have understood if you had just communicated better." Sarah's voice was cold, businesslike. "Richard here will go over the papers with you. I'm asking for the house, half of your 401k, and spousal support for 3 years. I think that's fair considering I supported your career all these years." Supported my career? She had worked part-time at her father's marketing firm, a cushy job where she could come and go as she pleased. I had been the primary breadwinner since we graduated college. But I was too stunned, too hurt, too physically weak to argue. I signed the papers. What choice did I have? I was lying in a hospital bed, alone, possibly dying, and the woman I loved was walking away without a second thought. The biopsy came back negative. No cancer. But I was still looking at months of recovery, medical bills that would bury me even with insurance, and now a divorce that would take whatever I had left. James, my coworker and honestly my only real friend, came to visit me every day during my recovery. He was the one who brought me food, helped me get to follow-up appointments, and listened when I needed to talk. One evening, about 2 weeks after Sarah had served me the papers, James showed up with takeout and a serious expression. "Mark, I need to tell you something, but you're not going to like it." "What now?" "You know how I've been helping you with Patricia's medical bills, processing the payments and dealing with the insurance?" I nodded. "Man, Sarah stopped paying for her mother's treatment 3 months ago. She told the hospital that the family couldn't afford it anymore and they needed to work out a payment plan. The only reason Patricia is still getting treatment is because the hospital is covering it through their charity program." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What?" "But I've been transferring money to Sarah every month specifically for that." "I know. I went through your bank statements. You've sent her over $40,000 in the last 6 months. I don't know what she's been doing with it, but it hasn't been going to the hospital." That's when something inside me broke. Not broke like sadness, but broke like a dam that had been holding back a flood of anger and determination. Sarah had used me. She had manipulated my love for her mother, stolen money that was meant to save a woman's life, and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I hired my own lawyer, a tough-as-nails woman named Margaret Chen, who had a reputation for destroying spouses who tried to commit fraud in divorce proceedings. When I showed her the bank statements and the information James had gathered, her eyes lit up. "Oh, we're going to have fun with this," Margaret said, with a smile that would have scared a shark. The next few months were brutal. Margaret subpoenaed Sarah's financial records and found that she had been spending my money on luxury items, trips with David, and even helped him with a down payment on a new boat. The judge was not amused. Instead of Sarah getting half of everything, she walked away with nothing. No house, no 401k, no spousal support. In fact, she was ordered to pay back the money she had stolen with interest. But I wasn't done. Margaret also helped me report Sarah to the IRS for tax fraud because she hadn't claimed the money I had given her as income.
That triggered an audit that uncovered years of shady financial dealings. Sarah's perfect life started crumbling fast. During all of this, I found out something interesting through the legal discovery process. David Thornton wasn't quite the successful real estate developer Sarah thought he was. He was actually drowning in debt, had 2 failed businesses in the last 5 years, and the BMW he drove was leased and 3 months behind on payments. His whole lifestyle was a facade, and he had been planning to use Sarah's divorce settlement to pay off his creditors. When Sarah found this out, she tried to call off the engagement, but David convinced her to stay with him. He probably figured he could still use her somehow, or maybe he actually did care about her in his own twisted way. I didn't care anymore. I was done with both of them.
My company had been great during my recovery. They held my job for me, and when I was ready to come back, my boss offered me something unexpected. They were opening a new office in London and needed someone to head up the European development team. It was a promotion, a significant raise, and most importantly, it was 5,000 miles away from Seattle, Sarah, and all the memories that haunted me. I took it without hesitation. Moving to London was the best decision I ever made. I threw myself into my work, made new friends, started seeing a therapist to process everything I had been through, and slowly began to heal. I started working out, picked up photography as a hobby, and even began dating again. Nothing serious, just casual dinners and enjoying getting to know people without the weight of my past crushing me. Life was good. I was happy, genuinely happy for the first time in years. And then, 8 months after I moved to London, Sarah called me at 2 a.m. to tell me that someone had ruined her wedding to David. After I hung up on her that night, I couldn't get back to sleep. I was curious about what had happened, so I did what any modern person would do. I checked social media. Sarah had blocked me on everything, but I had created a fake account months ago just to occasionally check on Patricia, who I still cared about despite everything. What I found was absolutely glorious. Sarah's wedding had been a disaster, and the evidence was all over social media. Not from Sarah's account, which had gone dark, but from the dozens of guests who had attended. The hashtag Thornton Wedding was trending locally, and not for good reasons. I scrolled through the posts, piecing together what had happened. The wedding had been at an expensive venue in downtown Seattle, one of those places with crystal chandeliers and marble floors that probably cost more to rent for a day than most people make in a month. The pictures from earlier in the evening showed Sarah in an elaborate white dress that must have cost a fortune, David looking smug in an expensive tuxedo, and about 200 guests milling around with champagne glasses. Then I found a video that had been shared over 1,000 times. In the video, an older woman I didn't recognize was standing at the microphone during what appeared to be the reception. She was elegantly dressed, probably in her 60s, with silver hair and the kind of posture that suggested old money and high society. "I'd like to propose a toast," the woman said, her voice clear and strong, "to the happy couple. Sarah, you look absolutely radiant, though I must say this dress is quite lovely, much nicer than the one you wore to your first wedding. Of course, that makes sense since your first husband was too busy working to pay for your mother's cancer treatment to afford designer gowns. Tell me, dear, did you use the money Mark sent for your mother's chemo to pay for this dress, or was that spent on David's boat?" The camera captured the moment perfectly. Sarah's face went from confused to pale to bright red in about 3 seconds. David was grabbing for the microphone, but the woman smoothly stepped away from him. "Oh, don't worry, I'm almost done. I just think it's important that everyone here knows what kind of people they're celebrating today. Sarah, who committed financial fraud and betrayed a man who loved her while he was recovering from surgery, and David, who proposed to her specifically because he thought she was getting a large divorce settlement that could pay off his debts. It's quite a love story, isn't it? I'm sure it'll last forever." The video ended with chaos erupting in the background. Guests were shouting, Sarah was screaming something intelligible, and David was trying to chase down the woman who had just demolished their wedding. I watched it 3 more times, each time noticing new details.
the look of horror on Sarah's face, the way David's mother got up and walked out, the guests pulling out their phones to record the meltdown. It was beautiful. But who was the woman? I didn't recognize her, and none of the social media posts identified her. She had disappeared into the chaos like a phantom, leaving destruction in her wake. I spent the next hour reading through comments and posts. People were eviscerating Sarah and David online. Someone had dug up court records from our divorce and posted them. Another person had found evidence of David's business failures. It was a feeding frenzy, and I was here for all of it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Did you enjoy the show?" I stared at the message, confused. Who is this? A friend. Someone who believes in karma and thinks you deserved better than what Sarah did to you. How did you get my number? I have my sources. Check your email. I opened my laptop and saw a new message from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simply justice. Inside was a single attachment, a video file. I downloaded it and pressed play.
It was security camera footage from what looked like a coffee shop. The timestamp showed it was from about 6 months ago, when I was still in Seattle. The camera angle showed 2 women sitting at a table near the window. One of them was Sarah. The other was a woman I had never seen before, though something about her seemed vaguely familiar. The video had no audio, but I could read their body language. Sarah was animated, gesturing wildly, clearly complaining about something. The other woman was listening patiently, nodding occasionally. Then Sarah pulled out her phone and showed the other woman something on the screen. Even without being able to see the phone clearly, I knew what it was. Pictures of David, probably their texts, evidence of their affair. The other woman's expression changed. She sat back in her chair, her face hardening. Sarah seemed oblivious, continuing to talk. Then the other woman said something that made Sarah laugh. They talked for a few more minutes before going their separate ways. The video ended, and another email arrived. The woman Sarah was talking to is Margaret Thornton, David's ex-wife. She's also my daughter. What Sarah didn't know was that Margaret had her own reasons for being interested in David's new relationship. After what he did to my daughter, I've been waiting for the right moment to return the favor. When I found out what Sarah had done to you, I knew we had a common enemy. Consider us even now. David and Sarah deserve each other, and they deserve everything that's coming to them. I sat back in my chair, processing this information. The woman from the wedding was David's ex-mother-in-law. She had taken revenge not just for her daughter, but for me too. I didn't know whether to be grateful or concerned that I had unwittingly become part of someone else's revenge plot. Another text arrived. "Don't worry, Mark. We're done now. Live your life. Be happy. That's the best revenge of all." I never responded to the messages, and I never heard from that number again, but I kept the video just in case. The next few days were wild. The video from the wedding went viral. News outlets picked it up as a feel-good story about public shamings, though they had no idea about the full context. Sarah and David became local celebrities for all the wrong reasons. I heard through James, who was still in Seattle and loved keeping me updated on the drama, that Sarah had called off the wedding immediately after the reception. She and David had a massive fight in the parking lot that was witnessed by about 50 guests. Apparently, David admitted that he had been planning to use her settlement money to pay off his debts, and Sarah revealed that there was no settlement money because I had outmaneuvered her in the divorce. They blamed each other for their public humiliation and went their separate ways. The relationship that destroyed my marriage lasted exactly 3 months past my divorce being finalized. But the consequences didn't end there. Sarah lost her job at the marketing firm. Turns out that having a viral video of you being called out for financial fraud isn't great for a company's image, especially when that company prides itself on ethics and transparency. David's business completely collapsed when his creditors saw the viral video and realized he had no money coming in. He filed for bankruptcy within a month. Patricia, Sarah's mother, reached out to me through Facebook. It was a long message, full of apologies and shame. She had no idea what Sarah had been doing with the money I had sent.
When she found out, she was devastated. She told me that she had cut off contact with Sarah and that she was working with the hospital to pay back what she owed through the charity program. She thanked me for what I had tried to do for her and told me that she thought of me as the son she never had. I wrote back and told her that none of it was her fault, that I didn't blame her for Sarah's actions, and that I was glad she was getting the treatment she needed. We started emailing occasionally, just friendly updates about life. It was nice to maintain that connection to someone I had cared about. Life in London continued to get better. I got promoted again, started dating a wonderful woman named Emma, who was a teacher at a local primary school, and bought a flat in a nice neighborhood. I was building a new life, one that wasn't haunted by betrayal and pain. Then, about 4 months after the wedding disaster, I got another call from Sarah. This time I was prepared. I had changed my number, but somehow she had found it. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want, Sarah?" I asked, my voice tired. "Mark, I need help." She wasn't crying this time. She sounded defeated, broken. "I lost everything. My job, my apartment, David, Mom won't talk to me. I have nothing. And you think I'm going to help you. You're a good person, Mark, better than me. I know that now. I was horrible to you, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose everything." I could have gloated. I could have told her that she deserved everything that happened to her. I could have hung up and blocked her number. But I didn't.
"Sarah, I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to fix your problems, but I'll give you some advice. Stop running from your mistakes. Own what you did. Apologize to the people you hurt, not because you want something from them, but because it's the right thing to do. Get a job, any job, and start rebuilding. Go to therapy and figure out why you did what you did so you don't do it again. That's all I've got for you." There was silence on the other end of the line. "That's it?" she finally said. "That's all you're going to say to me? What did you expect, Sarah? Did you think I was going to welcome you back with open arms? Did you think we were going to be friends? You destroyed our marriage, stole money meant for your dying mother, and betrayed me when I was at my lowest point. I've moved on. I'm happy now. You should try to do the same." "I made a mistake, Mark. Can't you forgive me?" "Forgiveness isn't about you feeling better, Sarah. It's about me letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison my life. I've already forgiven you. That doesn't mean I want you in my life or that I'm going to rescue you from the consequences of your choices." I hung up before she could respond and immediately blocked the number. Emma asked me who had called, and I told her the whole story. We had been dating for 2 months at that point, and I felt like she deserved to know about my past. She listened without judgment, held my hand when I got emotional talking about some of the harder parts, and then said something that stuck with me. "You're not responsible for fixing people who broke themselves while trying to break you." She was right. Sarah's problems were their own to solve. I had spent enough of my life trying to save her from herself. As the months passed, I heard less and less about Sarah and David. The viral video faded from public consciousness, replaced by newer scandals and dramas. Life moved on, as it always does. I focused on my relationship with Emma, my career, and building a life I was proud of. I traveled across Europe, tried new hobbies, made great friends, and discovered who I was outside of the identity I had built around being Sarah's husband. One evening, about a year after I had moved to London, I was having dinner with Emma at our favorite Italian restaurant when my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Patricia. "Mark, I wanted you to know that I finished my treatment last month. The doctors say I'm in remission. I couldn't have done it without the hospital's charity program, which I only qualified for because you exposed what Sarah did. In a weird way, your fight with her saved my life. I'll be forever grateful. Also, I thought it should be known that Sarah moved to California. She got a job at a small marketing firm and seems to be trying to turn her life around. I'm not ready to forgive her yet, but I hope she finds whatever she's looking for. Thank you for everything you did for me, and for being honest with Sarah, even when she didn't deserve your kindness. You're a good man, and I hope you're happy." I showed the email to Emma, and she smiled. "Looks like everyone's moving forward.
Yeah, I guess they are. Chapter 3. 2 years after moving to London, I was living a life I had never imagined possible. Emma and I had moved in together, I had been promoted to Director of European Operations at my company, and I was genuinely, completely happy. The scars from what Sarah had done were still there, but they didn't hurt anymore. They were just part of my story, proof that I had survived something difficult and come out stronger. Then I got an invitation that changed everything. It arrived by email, formal and professional. James, my friend from Seattle who had helped me through the worst period of my life, was getting married. He wanted me to be his best man. The wedding was in Seattle, at a venue overlooking Puget Sound. I hadn't been back to Seattle since I left, and the thought of returning made me anxious. Emma convinced me to go. You can't avoid an entire city because of one person. Besides, James was there for you when you needed him. You should be there for him too. She was right, of course. I booked my flights and started writing my best man speech. The wedding was beautiful. James married his longtime girlfriend, Amy, who was smart, funny, and clearly adored him. Standing next to James at the altar, watching him tear up as Amy walked down the aisle, I felt genuinely happy for my friend. He deserved this. During the reception, I was mingling with guests and catching up with old coworkers when I saw her. Sarah was standing near the bar, wearing a simple blue dress, looking uncomfortable and out of place. My first instinct was to leave, but then I noticed something. She was alone. No date, no friends around her. She was holding a glass of wine and staring at her phone like it was a lifeline. I walked over to James. "Did you invite Sarah?" He looked uncomfortable. Amy did. They were friends in college, and Amy wanted to give her a chance. Sarah's apparently been trying to make amends with people. "I'm sorry, man. I should have told you."
"It's fine," I said, and I meant it. Sarah couldn't hurt me anymore. She was just a person, someone I used to know, someone who made terrible choices that destroyed our relationship. But she wasn't my problem anymore. I was about to walk away when Sarah looked up and saw me. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw something in her expression that surprised me. It wasn't anger or resentment, it was shame. She started walking toward me, and I considered my options. I could turn and walk away. I could be polite but cold, or I could be the bigger person and have a conversation with her. For better or worse, I chose the last option. "Hello, Mark," she said quietly when she reached me. Up close, she looked different, older, tired. The confidence and sparkle she used to have were gone, replaced by something that looked like regret. "Sarah, you look good, happy." "I am." She nodded, looking down at her drink. "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "I know I've said it before, but I don't think I really meant it until now. What I did to you was unforgivable. I was selfish and cruel, and I hurt you in ways I'm only now beginning to understand. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or ulterior motives. I didn't find any. She looked sincere, broken even. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "How have you been?" "Honestly, it's been hard. I moved to California, got a job at a small firm. I'm in therapy 3 times a week, trying to figure out why I did what I did. I'm paying Mom back for the money I stole, even though she won't talk to me yet. I'm trying to be better." "That's good. I'm glad you're working on yourself." "Are you with someone?" she asked. "Yes. Her name is Emma. She's a teacher. We live in London together." Sarah nodded, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. "I'm happy for you, really. You were always the good one in our relationship. You deserved better than what I gave you." This was surreal. I had imagined running into Sarah dozens of times, played out various scenarios in my head, but I never imagined this, her being genuinely remorseful and me feeling nothing but indifference. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Anything."
Why? Why did you do it? I've spent 2 years trying to understand, and I still don't get it." She took a deep breath, and a tear rolled down her cheek. "I was scared. You were so good, so dedicated, so focused on doing the right thing, and I felt like I could never measure up to that. When David paid attention to me, made me feel special and exciting, I convinced myself that I deserved it. I told myself that you were too busy working to care about me. I made you the villain in my own story so I could justify what I was doing. It was easier to admit that I was just being selfish and cowardly." It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. "I appreciate you telling me that," I said. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah. I really do. But we're done. This is goodbye." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I know. Goodbye, Mark. I hope you have a wonderful life." I walked away from her and didn't look back. Emma had been right. Sarah couldn't hurt me anymore because I had moved on completely. I had built a new life, one that didn't include her or the pain she had caused. The rest of the wedding was perfect. I gave a speech that made James cry and made everyone laugh. I danced with Amy's grandmother, who told me I was a good-looking young man who should visit Seattle more often. I caught up with old friends and made plans to stay in better touch. On my last night in Seattle, James and I sat on his deck, drinking beer and watching the sunset over the water. "You handled seeing Sarah really well," he said. "It's easier when you're not angry anymore." "Are you really not angry?" I thought about it. "No, I'm not. I was for a long time, and that anger motivated me to rebuild my life. But holding on to it now would just be poisoning myself. Sarah's dealing with her own consequences. She lost her marriage, her job, her mother's trust, her reputation. She has to live with knowing that she destroyed something good because she was too selfish to appreciate what she had. That's punishment enough." James raised his beer. To moving forward, I echoed, clinking our bottles against his. When I got back to London, Emma picked me up at the airport. I told her about seeing Sarah, about our conversation, about how I felt absolutely nothing when I walked away from her. "How does it feel to finally close that chapter?" Emma asked. "It feels like freedom," I said. 3 months later, I proposed to Emma during a weekend trip to Paris. She said yes without hesitation. We got married in a small ceremony in the English countryside, surrounded by friends and family who actually loved and supported us. Patricia sent a gift and a card congratulating us. It was a beautiful day. Everything a wedding should be.
I never heard from Sarah again. Through the occasional social media creeping, I learned that she eventually reconciled with Patricia, continued working at her firm in California, and seemed to be genuinely trying to rebuild her life. I hoped she succeeded, not because I cared about her, but because her doing well meant she wouldn't have any reason to contact me again. David, on the other hand, didn't fare as well. I heard from James that he had moved to Florida to escape his creditors, started another business that failed, and was last seen trying to sell vitamins through a multi-level marketing scheme. Some people never learn. The revenge I got wasn't something I planned or orchestrated. I didn't sabotage Sarah's wedding or ruin her life. I didn't have to. The consequences of her own actions did all of that for me. All I did was refuse to be her safety net, refuse to bail her out of the problems she created, and refuse to let her betrayal define the rest of my life. The best revenge wasn't making Sarah suffer. It was building a life so good, so full of love and success and genuine happiness that she became completely irrelevant to my story. She was a chapter in my past, not a character in my present or future. Sometimes late at night, when I'm lying in bed next to Emma, listening to the sounds of London outside our window, I think about where I was 3 years ago. Broken, betrayed, alone in a hospital bed, signing divorce papers while recovering from surgery. I think about how far I've come, how much I've grown, how much stronger I am now. And I think about Sarah,
wherever she is, living with the knowledge that she gave up something real for something fake, and that the person she hurt the most went on to find genuine happiness without her. That's the revenge. Not pain, not suffering, not getting even, just living well, loving deeply, and proving that the best way to overcome someone who hurt you is to build a life they can never touch. I won. Not because I destroyed her, but because I refused to let her destroy me. And that, in the end, is the only victory that matters. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. It amazes me how these stories connect people from all corners of the world. Whether you're tuning in from the US, the Philippines, Canada, or right here in New York, your support means everything to this channel. Every view, every comment, every share helps us reach more people who need to hear stories about resilience and moving forward. So please, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that no matter how hard life knocks you down, you can always rebuild stronger than before. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.